Saul Canelo Alvarez is supposed to be returning when? Against who? Stay tuned on this video. We'll be discussing everything and anything on Canelo's return. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and stay posted. Bow. So yep, Canelo's return is set for February 27th in front of his home crowd in Guadalajara, Mexico. Of course, his opponent's going to be lackluster name in Anthony Yildirim, not to the surprise of anyone. But it does have some relative importance and significance because it is a mandated fight for the WBC green and yellow strap. So of course this means that if Canelo doesn't take the fight, he will lose that belt, and that would be working against everything that Canelo's trying to work towards. Earlier in the month, Canelo and his team came out saying that he wants to become undisputed at 168. So why the hell would he drop that belt, especially after he just recently won it earlier in the month against Caleb Smith? I mean, I know a lot of people out there are like, well, Anthony Yildirim, who the hell is he? He's the soft touch. No crap. Like, everybody knows this. Nobody's saying that he's a credible opponent. What people are looking towards though and forward to are both the May and September potential opponents. Now, I know a lot of people are still out there saying, well, Canelo's trying to take the path of least resistance, the easiest routes to the money fights. How? Like, I that's a train of thought I never understood, and I just want to make that very abundantly clear. Ladies and gentlemen, Canelo Alvarez left $280 million on the table with the DAZN deal in order for him to be able to pursue his own goals and endeavors and go after the opponents he wants to without being limited to fighting on a specific network or with a promotional company. Like, now he could go to Al Heyman and be like, yo Al, I need this guy right here, I want to fight this guy. He could go through the whole PBC stable and then jump ships and go to Top Rank, or fight in between them, or go to the zone, or go wherever he chooses to and fight against whomever he wants, because he has that flexibility at his disposal. So when people bring up that whole, oh, Canelo's just trying to make that easy money, I just don't see it, my guy. Like, that's something that I cannot be convinced about, because I just don't see it. Tell me what other fighter out there is going to be willing to leave $280 million on the table, given that he's even taking easy fights, not building a legacy. They're even telling him, yo, you could fight all these, lesser named opponents, just stick with us and we'll give you 280, and you just walk away from that. What other fighter would be doing that? Like, I just don't see that. I'm sure there are a few out there, but I just don't see any right now. Like, I can't fathom that thought, because even me myself, if I were in that predicament, I wouldn't walk away from no 280 million. Heck, I didn't need one. But anyway, I digress. Back to the topic at hand. Canelo has definitely a plethora of choices and credible opponents to choose from after the soft touch and Anthony Yildirim. People will complain about him knocking Anthony Yildirim off, but it has to happen. It has to happen. As simple as that. One of the names that are being brought up again is, of course, Triple G and the third installment. It'd be an interesting fight because Canelo is developed a more effective and pressure-like style since the first fight and in the second fight, but in his fights after that, he's been able to polish off that style a little bit more, and I think it'd be more of a threat for a much older Triple G, who really looked kind of lackluster in his latest fight against Mr. Zeremeta. Anyway, one of the interesting things about that fight is that Canelo's team said they are not willing to drop down to 160 because they're done doing favors for Triple G, and he would have to move up to 168, which would mean that Triple G would need to keep true on his word about taking on any and every challenger from 154 to 168. I remember that statement was made several years back, and he has yet to leave 160. So it would most definitely be interesting to see if he does take the step up to 168 for once in his career to get that fight that I know he wants and would set him up for retirement pretty much. Caleb Plant is also another name that has drawn interest. Even before the Caleb fight, apparently there were some serious discussions between Canelo and the PBC about this fight. Unfortunately, it didn't materialize. Canelo did have the following to say about Plant. Very serious. The conversations were very serious. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but I'm pretty sure in the future it will. My intention is to unify the titles at 168 pounds. But yes, There were very serious conversations about this. Eventually it will happen. So for a lot of people out there that are saying that he is ducking Caleb Plant and a few other fighters I'm going to talk about later on, how is he ducking Caleb Plant when he was trying to set up the fight? In fact, I would believe it was Caleb Plant that turned down the fight because he didn't feel like he had enough time to have a proper training camp. So don't get it twisted. I'm not blaming Caleb Plant for not taking on the fight if he doesn't feel like he could have been at his best for that fight because of a relatively short training camp. I don't blame him, but I just can't stand a lot of people out there that are claiming that Canelo is ducking so-and-so when the facts are right here. Like Alvarez said that they were very close to making that deal, but it just didn't materialize, unfortunately, and they're still willing, for as long as Caleb Plant retains his championship and remains a champion, I'm sure Alvarez is going to be eyeing him in order to fully become the undisputed champion at 168 pounds. There's no way around it. He needs to take him on. Anyway, another name is Saunders. Why not? He possesses a belt and the fight would be relatively easy to make, especially since Eddie Hearn and Canelo's team are working closely and getting along quite well. I mean, recently there was this video that surfaced where Canelo was walking out after the Caleb Smith fight and he crossed paths with Eddie Hearn. He's like, who's next? In a jokingly manner. And so yeah, they seem to be hitting it off quite well. Plus the fight had already been discussed and scheduled for this past May or June, I forgot which date exactly it was, but it fell through due to the unforeseen COVID pandemic. Not only that, but knocking Saunders off would mean Alvarez moves one step closer to his goal of becoming undisputed. Styles do make fights, and Saunders could stink up the joint. He definitely poses some issues for Saul, but if Saul is able to exercise his new pressure abilities he has discovered in his last few fights, I'm sure this fight would look very differently than it would have a few years ago. And it's definitely pretty interesting. I don't think Saunders would be able to stink up the joint too much because if Canelo does pressure him, I think he's going to go through Saunders' punches. I don't think it's going to bother him. And if you can't gain a fighter's respect, then it's going to be a very long and difficult night for you. Anyway, now that the two main names in the division have been discussed, we could talk about a few other opponents that don't possess any titles but definitely have enough pull and attention that could potentially sway Canelo's team and their interest towards them. David Benavidez is a name that has been popping up a lot recently and mentioned by a lot of people in the media and of course the boxing fandom. The kid definitely is talented as heck, man. Like, he has them hands. He throws punches and bunches. He's really good, but he lacks hella discipline. Like, he has shown that lack of discipline time and time again that has led him to losing his belt twice without ever having lost a damn fight. Like, what? But of course, he would know what's on the line fighting the likes of Alvarez, and I'm confident he would come in well prepared and motivated to try and take Canelo's luster away. However, I think the style would play into Canelo's hands more so than the Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb or even the Bubu Andrade fight. And the reason why is because, like I said before, David throws punches and bunches in the middle of the ring, and Alvarez is a sublime counterpuncher. If anything, he was a natural counterpuncher before this new style started emerging of him being a little bit more in the pressure side. So even though people in the media and fighters such as Mikey Garcia think highly of Benavidez and think it'd be a grueling and difficult fight for Canelo, I really like to beg to defer. I think it'd most definitely be explosive, action-packed, and reel in a bunch of eyeballs. Like, the Mexican-American fan base would definitely be there in the house and present, but I think Benavidez can't hang a full 12 with Alvarez. I'm sorry. Like, I know the kid is strong, I know the kid can punch, I know the kid can fight, but I just don't see him being able to take punishment from Canelo Alvarez the full 12 rounds, especially because of his style, like I said, playing right into the hands of a counterpuncher. Another name that I don't put much weight into, but it is a significant name, is Dimitri Bivol from 175. He has mentioned dropping down to 168 for a fight against Alvarez, and although I wouldn't want to see him drop to 168 because I'm sure Alvarez wouldn't get any credit for it. In fact, I think he'd get torched and told that he pretty much got another cherry-picked opponent and weight drained him. It'd be a good fight. Both fighters are supremely talented and skilled, so it'd really be a game of chess in there. Again, if anything, I would like for this fight to happen at 175, maybe after Alvarez, if he is able to unify and become undisputed at 168 and decides to go back up to 175 and campaign there. If Dimitri is still around, why not? Like, I really would like to see that fight. Of course, Artur Beterbiev is in the same line. line. I would like to see that fight at 175. I wouldn't want to take anything away from either Canelo or them in a win or loss. Then Jamal Charlo, he's talked about moving up to 168 to land that fight with Alvarez. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of folks out here in the YouTube community would like to believe that Alvarez is stuck in Charlo, but I just don't see it. Like, what does Charlo bring to the table that Alvarez hasn't seen throughout his lengthy career? Is it more power than Triple G? Does he have more speed than somebody like Mayweather? Is he, I don't know, does he have more footwork than Erislandy Lara? Like, I just don't see it. What he does bring is a lot of intangibles under the same package, and I think that will be interesting fight. I'm not saying it'd be very easy fight to win for Alvarez. I know it's going to be a difficult one if it does happen, and I'm really hoping it does happen because I want to see the best fights out there. But they're both campaigning on two different weight divisions. If anything, I would like for Charlo to move up and face or try to get a belt at 168, and I'm sure he could go after Caleb. In fact, he might be able to land Caleb easier and sooner than Alvarez is, because Alvarez is almost damn near locked into a 2-fight deal with Avni Yildirim and Billy Joe Saunders next year. So if Charlo's really up for it and he really is intending to land that Alvarez fight, why not go after Caleb Plant? He's under the same umbrella as you. You guys can make that fight happen sometime in the middle of next year, and then the winner faces Canelo Alvarez either in September or later on in 2021. Anyway, one of the last names I want to mention is Errol Spence Jr. That fight I don't see happening anytime soon, if at all. There's plenty of work out there for Spence at 147 and 154. He still hasn't fought the likes of Terrence Buck Crawford, you know, Manny Pacquiao, and there's other names in his stable at 154 that would make for a lot of excellent fights. Hell, why the hell would he jump up 2 to 3 divisions just to take a loss against Saul Canelo Alvarez? I mean, of course the money. I'm sure that's why anybody and everybody wants to fight Canelo Alvarez. But I mean, put yourself in a position where you build the legacy and you could take on those names. I'm sure Errol Spence Jr. could carve out a great career without having to take on that fight, without potentially hurting his career in the long term for short-term gains. And I think then both fighters are not going to see each other in the ring. And if it does happen, because Canelo has shown interest in him because of the name that he pulls, then so be it. I mean, I'm not saying I won't watch it. It'd definitely be interesting. I would like to see Errol Spence Jr. start moving up now gradually in order for us to see how he would do at higher weight divisions. I want to see if his power, you know, carries over. I want to see how he takes the punches and how he adapts to the bigger boys at 154, at 160, and see how it goes from there. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really hope you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts, how you feel about Canelo Alvarez and his potential opponents, what fight you like best, and what you don't like about Canelo or his opponents. Let your thoughts be known. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned. Stay blessed. Have a good one, y'all.